Has there ever been an event that was so horrible that you would do anything to forget it, as far as forgetting everyone around you at the time? Only for you to go back and then for those memories to reappear in bits and pieces? Welcome to the wintry world of Kanon.
Kanon was originally an adult-oriented visual novel for the PC developed by Key. Yes, the same people who gave us Air. Like Air, the game was later released for the Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, and PSP with the adult content removed. Also like Air, the game was also adapted into other forms of media, from manga to light novels, and 2 TV anime shows, one in 2002 and the other in 2006. In this episode, we will primarily take a look at the 2006 version, but I will take some time to make comparisons between the two series. This show has many different characters, each with something I have to say about them. So in the interest of time, I decided to skip the synopsis of the show by going over the first episode and jumping right to describing the main characters.
So, let's begin.
Yuichi Aizawa is a 17-year-old high school student who moves in with his aunt and cousin,
In which the anime decides not to tell us why.
Although when he first arrives, he has a terrible time remembering the people he met last time he was in town, which was over 7 years ago. He is normally friendly and outgoing, but sports a sarcastic sense of humor and often teases each of the girls in one way or another. Despite this, he is also a kind and caring person who is likened as an older brother type by the others.
He seems to remind me of a certain Kanon character from a certain other Kyoto animation title.
As the show begins, he moves in and lives with his cousin Naoki Minase. Now, this chick has a number of weird habits. First off, she is a very heavy sleeper. This forces her to collect dozens of alarm clocks that seem to have no effect on waking her up. Since she has such trouble waking up, she is always running to school and is in fact the school star runner because of this. Although she still has a problem with falling asleep in class and can even fall asleep while standing up.
In fact, she's kind of like a Windows 98 computer. Both are very hard to wake out of sleep mode, and they crash just as often.
Windows 98!
Another thing about her is that she loves animals, especially cats. Unfortunately for her, she is highly allergic to them.
I want everybody to meet burger and fries.
It is also implied a few times in the show that she has a romantic interest in Yuichi, and in the 2002 version, she even takes it one step further. Another interesting character is Ayu Tsukimiya. Yuichi meets this lively young lady on his first day in town. She is a rather enigmatic character. Much about her isn't revealed until near the end of the show. But what we do know about her is that she sports some rather peculiar mannerisms. One of her most defining characteristics is the repeated utterance of her catchphrase, "Ugu." She usually mutters this as an expression of various negative emotions such as frustration, anger, and fear, in which Yuichi enjoys teasing her about.
Ugu, I'm Ayu. I think that taiyaki is really awesome.
She also has an obsession with taiyaki, a Japanese cake shaped like a fish that is filled with red bean paste. Ayu can be quite a bit of an airhead, and despite looking younger than her age, she is actually the same age as Yuichi.
Whew, for a minute there, I thought you were actually going to... Wait a minute, aren't both of these characters 17 years old? So wouldn't that still make them both kids? Never mind then.
While trying to get used to the town, he runs into a girl named Makoto Sawatari. She suddenly attacks him, but he is able to defeat her just by stretching his arm out. She tells Yuichi that she hates him, yet she can't remember why due to a rather severe case of amnesia. She is usually clueless about things that normal people her age should know, and lacks common sense due to the lack of social experience. She also has a rather mischievous personality and loves to play pranks on Yuichi, even though her pranks always seem to backfire on her.
Another thing I find funny about her is how gullible she can be.
In that case, could you pick me up a couple of porno mags?
What is it you want? Some porno mags?
You've never heard of them? Well, they're these magazines for adults that make you all tingly and excited when you read them. They're pretty great.
Yeah?
Just ask the store clerk for his finest porno magazines. If he brings lots of options, just go with whatever he recommends.
So is it okay if I read it too?
Well, you can only read it if you're an adult.
Then I will, because I am an adult.
I can't believe you fell for the oldest trick in the book!
Yuichi!
The last character I want to talk about before we move on is Mai Kawasumi. Yuichi runs into her late at night while trying to retrieve Naoki's homework that she accidentally left at school. She's mostly a quiet character, often keeping to herself, and talks in a soft, monotone voice. She takes it upon herself to rid the school of evil spirits while the school is deserted, and is seen by her fellow students as completely insane and is talked about behind her back. Thus, she is constantly blamed for accidents because she never denies them, being too sincere to say anything and knowing that no one will believe her that there are demons in the school.
She's pretty much like Yuki Nagato from Haruhi Suzumiya, except that she doesn't constantly talk in technical mumbo-jumbo.
I can only recall a couple scenes where nudity is used, and it comprises mostly of brief bath scenes. Most of the nudity in this show is in a scene where Yuichi accidentally walks in on Makoto taking a bath. Thus, I will give this 2 stars for nudity. The same can be said about crude humor. Most of it comes in the form of Yuichi and Makoto pulling mean-spirited pranks on each other. Thus, I'll also give this a 2 out of 5. Mild language does appear from time to time. It mostly comes from Yuichi whenever he loses his patience with the other characters or with a situation he can't control. Thus, I will give this 2 stars for language. Violence is mostly used during Mai Kawasumi's story arc when Yuichi tries to help her rid the school of evil spirits. Other than that and the occasional slapstick humor, there isn't that much violence in this show. Nonetheless, the anime is full of adult situations and tragic events that may be startling to younger viewers. Thus, I will give this 2 stars for violence. Now I know what you're thinking. Haven't I seen something like this before? Well, maybe that's because this game was made into an anime once before. But before we start comparing old anime versus new anime, there is a couple of little factoids that I need to point out. First off, this show was one of the last shows to be released by ADV Films before they shut down, with much of its assets divided amongst other smaller companies such as Sentai Filmworks and Section 23 Films. In fact, the future of the last volume of Kanon was pretty much up in the air until the license for the show was transferred to Funimation Entertainment. I plan on doing a review solely on the history of ADV Films somewhere down the line, but right now, let's remain on topic. Secondly, the 2002 release of Kanon was never released in the United States. Therefore, the only way I could get my hands on it in order to do a thorough comparison of the 2 series was to download it via fansub, so please excuse the lower quality of the footage used in this review as well as the words at the bottom of the screen.
Third, yes, I got this idea off of the Nostalgia Critics old versus new segments.
The first Kanon anime was a 13-episode TV series released in early 2002 by Toei Animation and was later remade into a 24-episode TV series by Kyoto Animation. The 2002 anime's short episode count allows for a story that is fast-paced and to the point. However, unlike Air, which was able to convey the 4 different story arcs of the game within its 12-episode runtime, Kanon, on the other hand, has about 6 or 7 different story arcs, each connected to a specific character. Thus, the anime is forced to scramble in order to fit all of the different story arcs of the game into its 13-episode count. So even though the show's story was enjoyable, many plot elements were given minimal explanation or left unanswered in the interest of time. The 2006 remake, however, was allowed a more leisurely pace due to its longer episode count, which allows more time for the show's plot elements to be explained in greater detail. The dramatic tension in this story also builds over time and allows for a much more believable story rather than jumping into high gear so suddenly like the first series does during the last few episodes. The 2006 remake, however, was allowed a more leisurely pace due to its longer episode count, which allows more time for the show's plot elements to be explained in greater detail. The dramatic tension in this story also builds over time and allows for a much more believable story rather than jumping into high gear so suddenly like the first series does during the last few episodes. Although I have never played the game, I have heard from other people that the 2006 version is much more faithful to the game than the 2002 version. However, since I have never played the game, I have no way to confirm this. Even so, I enjoyed both versions of the show. It's a tough call, but for story, I will have to give the 2002 version 3 stars and the 2006 version 4 stars. The only difference between the two shows' soundtrack is apparently most of the music in the 2002 version was almost entirely composed of original music made for the anime, while the 2006 version uses music from the game as well as its arrangement albums. And yet, once again, since I haven't played the game, I couldn't tell you. However, the music in both versions is very atmospheric and soothing and enhances the mood of the story. Although I kind of like the 2006 version soundtrack a little bit better than the 2002 versions, I will go ahead and give this one a tie of 4 out of 5 stars. The animation quality in the 2002 version ranges from average to very poor. Despite having brighter coloring and thicker lines than the 2006 version, these often make the animation in this version rather grainy at times. Also, the characters are rather simple, with your typical bug-eyed character with a small mouth and huge head. These cutesy character designs make them look more like little kids rather than teenagers in high school. But there is one thing that really stands out: Yuichi's oversized chin.
I mean, look at this thing. This guy has more chin than Jay Leno. You could put an eye out with that thing.
The 2006 version, on the other hand, adds more depth to its characters and surroundings with its beautiful soft animation and rich colors, and the characters have been animated to look slightly older than those of the original 2002 version. Thus, I will give the 2002 version 2 out of 5 stars, and the 2006 version 4 out of 5. Once again, the episode count between the two series plays a major factor when it comes to the show's characters. Unfortunately, due to the 2002 version's fast-paced storytelling, many of the characters aren't given enough time on screen in order for them to develop any real personality or enough time for the viewer to relate to them. This causes the characters to be rather flat and one-dimensional. Simply put, the anime tries to do too much in a short amount of time with too many characters involved. And once again, the 2006 version does a better job in portraying the characters in the story due to its longer runtime. The characters' personalities are much more detailed and in-depth, and given more time to develop, which makes them more human and therefore relatable, unlike the cardboard cutouts in the first anime. However, there is one thing that both series have in common. since each story arc focuses in on a particular girl, and once her prospective story arc finishes, she practically disappears for the rest of the story.
Yummy! More throwaway characters, please!
The characters in both versions are lovable. However, I think the characters in the 2006 version are much better portrayed due to having more time to flesh them out and make them more human. Thus, I will give the 2002 version 3 stars out of 5, and the 2006 version 5 stars for characters. I enjoyed both versions of Kanon. However, if I were to choose between the two, I think I would prefer the 2006 version. Not only is the animation and soundtrack better, but it also has a much better execution of the story and its characters, and overall feels much more complete than the seemingly rushed 2002 version. It's not perfect, but it certainly is a vast improvement over the 2002 version on almost every level. So if you're looking for a more down-to-earth romantic anime, give this one a try. So I will give Kanon 2002 3 style points and an overall rating of 6 out of 10, and the 2006 version 4 style points and an overall rating of 8 out of 10.
So congratulations, Kanon 2006, for being the superior adaptation. Now, isn't there anything else I'm forgetting? Oh yeah, Miss Akiko's Mystery Jam!
I have heard many horror stories on how awful this stuff is, and how it makes people who have tasted it very sick just by the mere mentioning of it.
So I am going to ball up. For your viewing pleasure, I am actually going to try Miss Akiko's Mystery Jam. Wish me luck. Oh! 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 Oh, God, I can't believe I just did that. That stuff could put down a horse. I think I need to lie down for a while. This is the American Anime Otaku, passing out.